Ladies and gentlemen, there will be moments in your life when everything that gave you meaning will fall apart. People you trusted may walk away. Dreams you nurtured for years may collapse. Your own mind may seem like a stranger, and you stand there broken, lost, empty. Now, most people think this is the end, but let me tell you, this is not the end. This is the beginning of something deeper, because when life breaks you, it is not punishing you. It is simply stripping away what is false, what is borrowed, what is unnecessary. You see, pain by itself is not the problem. Your resistance to pain, your constant desire to feel only good things is where the real suffering begins. Life is not here to serve your preferences. Life is just happening. It doesn't happen to you, it happens through you. When something breaks, there is a certain clarity. When the noise of hope, pride and ego falls apart, there is a silence. And in that silence, if you are willing, you can hear the whisper of something far more real than your ideas of success, love or happiness. You are not your heartbreak. You are not your failure. These are simply weather patterns in the sky of your awareness. The sky remains untouched. Have you noticed? And know this, all growth begins in darkness. The seed must break to become the tree. The wound must open to release the infection. So if you are breaking, let it break you open. But don't become bitter. Don't close your heart. Don't become smaller. Let the pain carve you hollow so that something far greater can enter. Because what breaks you can also build you, if you are willing. So when life breaks you, bow to it, so wait to it. Let it burn what must go, let it break what must fall. But never forget, you are not broken, you are simply becoming more raw, more real, more alive than you've ever been. Pain is not punishment, it is a process. It is life trying to show you something that you have refused to see when things were comfortable. When everything was going your way, you were asleep to the deeper dimensions of your existence. And now that something has torn through the surface, you are suddenly awake, suddenly alert, not by choice but by necessity. And in that space where your heart is aching or your plans are shattered or your mind is confused, there is a strange clarity that begins to emerge, not because you planned for it, but because pain has peeled away the illusions you were living under. You see, people think pain is cruel, but it is just real. It doesn't wear the makeup of comfort or the costumes of success. It simply stands in front of you, naked and raw, showing you that everything you depended on was never really yours. Everything you believed in was never really permanent. And now that the ground is gone beneath your feet, you are being asked to discover the sky inside your chest. Not the one filled with clouds and stars, but the one that is boundless, untouched, eternal, waiting quietly behind every experience you call mine. And the funny thing is, if you stop fighting it, if you stop asking why me, and start asking what now, you will see that pain is not your enemy, it is your mirror, it is your compass, it is your teacher, not one that gives you easy lessons, but one that speaks without words, through tears, through silence, through long nights where sleep does not come and days that feel like years, and slowly, without even realizing it, you begin to drop what no longer serves you and step into what was always waiting to emerge from within. Because the doorway pain opens is not a doorway outward, it is inward. And while the world may tell you to distract yourself, entertain yourself, medicate yourself, boast something happy to pretend it's all fine, somewhere deep within you none of that touches the real thing. Because pain doesn't ask you to hide, it demands you to look, to see, to feel, and most importantly, to transform. Not by force, but by the sheer gravity of its presence. So don't be in a rush to fix everything, don't scramble to feel better, don't seek to cover it up with spiritual jargon or shallow positivity. Just sit with it, breathe with it, feel its rhythm, like a drum beating from the depths of your own soul. And if you can stay with it long enough, you will notice something strange. The pain starts to shift, not because it disappeared, but because you changed in its presence, because the one who entered the pain is not the same as the one coming out of it. And in that subtle turning, that quiet opening, you will understand that this was never about suffering for the sake of suffering. It was always about birth, about letting something truer come forth, something softer but stronger, something more fragile but more fearless, something that doesn't need to be validated by the outside because it has tasted the fire of being stripped down to nothing and yet still found a reason to keep breathing, keep standing, keep walking. This is why I say pain is not punishment, because punishment implies you did something wrong. But pain does not come because you are bad or broken or weak, it comes because you are ready to be undone, to be unmade, to be pulled out of your false identity and reminded of your vastness, your depth, your infinite possibility, which is not something you read in books or hear in lectures, but something you know in your bones. When life bends you to the ground and you rise not with pride but with presence. And when you realize this, truly realize it, You won't run from pain anymore. You won't fear it. You may still feel it, yes, but it won't destroy you. It will reveal you because now you know it is not a wall but a doorway, not a punishment but an invitation. Not the end of your story, but the unraveling of the lies you thought were you. And once you step through and simply allow, then pain in its strange and silent way becomes the most honest friend you ever had. Resistance multiplies suffering because when life presents you with pain, loss or discomfort, your instinct is to push it away, to deny its existence, to fight against what is happening as if by resisting reality you could somehow control it or change it faster. But this very resistance is like holding a burning coal in your hand and expecting the pain to go away just by clenching your fist tighter, when actually what you're doing is only deepening the burn, magnifying the pain and trapping yourself in an endless loop of struggle. You see, the moment you resist something, you create a conflict within yourself. The tension between what is and what you wish it to be, and this tension causes friction inside your mind and heart, an inner turmoil that turns every experience into a battle, where your energy is spent not on healing or understanding but on denial and resentment, which means the original pain stays the same. But your suffering becomes much greater because now you are carrying the burden of the pain plus the burden of your refusal to accept it. Most people never realize how much of their suffering comes not from the situation itself, but from their mental resistance to it. And the mind, when caught in this resistance, becomes like a prisoner in a cage of its own making, continuously replaying the past, imagining terrible futures, asking endlessly vague questions that have no answers, creating stories of injustice, blame and hopelessness, which only fuels the fire of suffering instead of calming it. Resistance creates an illusion of control, a false hope that if you fight hard enough, you can avoid pain or make it disappear. But life does not work according to your desires, and no amount of mental rebellion can stop the waves of change and loss, which means the energy spent on resistance is wasted energy, energy that could be used to understand, to learn, to grow, or simply to be with the experience without adding extra layers of torment. When you stop resisting, something shifts because acceptance does not mean giving up or becoming passive. It means seeing things clearly as they are, without adding judgment or emotional charge. And in this clarity, there is space for new perspectives, space for healing, space for the heart to open even in the midst of pain. And this openness softens the grip of suffering, allowing it to move through you rather than get stuck inside you. Resistance is like holding onto a thorn and expecting the wound to heal. But when you allow yourself to gently let go, when you soften your hold on what is causing discomfort, the wound begins to breathe, begins to heal naturally, because suffering thrives in resistance, dissolves in surrender. And surrender here is not weakness, it is the strength to face reality as it is and move beyond it with grace and courage. The more you resist, the more you suffer, because resistance isolates you from the flow of life, from the natural rhythm of change, and keeps you locked inside a small world of pain and fear. But when you embrace what is, even the darkest moments become part of a larger dance. A dance that has meaning beyond your understanding, a dance that leads you toward freedom, toward peace, toward the discovery of the unshakable core within you. So, if you want to lessen your suffering, don't try to fight what life brings, don't try to control it or avoid it, but instead practice the art of acceptance, of allowing, of being with the moment no matter how difficult. Because in that space where resistance falls away, suffering loses its perspective. And you begin to realize that life is not something to be controlled or fixed, but something to be experienced fully, with all its twists and turns, with all its pain and joy interwoven like threads in the fabric of your existence. Brokenness is clarity because when everything you held together falls apart, when the masks and stories you built to protect yourself crumble, what remains is raw truth, a truth that is often hidden beneath layers of comfort, distraction and denial. And in that rawness, in that exposed vulnerability, there is a light that pierces through the fog of confusion and illusion, showing you what really matters beyond all the noise and pretense. When you are broken, you are no longer pretending, no longer trying to keep up appearances or meet expectations, and this shedding of false identities creates a space where you can see yourself clearly, not the self you wish to be, not the self others told you to be, but the self that simply is, without judgment, without story, without resistance. And in this space of honesty, clarity dawns like the morning sun after a long dark night. The cracks that appear in your life, in your heart, in your mind, are not just signs of failure or defeat. They are openings, windows through which you can glimpse a deeper reality. a reality that is often obscured by own attachments and desires. And these cracks let the light in, light that illuminates your strengths, your fears, your true nature, and the path you have been avoiding because it demands you be real, vulnerable, and awake. Brokenness shakes you out of your complacency and comforts because when you are whole and unchallenged, it is easy to live in a fog of distraction, to fill your days with meaningless tasks or shallow pleasures. But when you break, you're forced to stop, to face yourself, to question everything you believe. And in that questioning, a clarity arises that can cut through the lies you told yourself and the illusions you clung to. It is in brokenness that you begin to understand that life is not about perfection or control, but about embracing imperfection and uncertainty. Because clarity does not come from a polished surface, but from the depth of experience, from falling and rising, from losing and finding. And this kind of clarity is not intellectual, it is experiential, a knowing that seeps into your bones and changes how you see yourself and the world. When you allow yourself to feel broken, not as a weakness but as an opening, you begin to dissolve the barriers between you and reality. And in this dissolving, there is freedom, because you are no longer caught in the story of who you should be or what your life should look like. But you are present to what is, and this presence is the clearest form of clarity, a state where life reveals itself without distortion. Brokenness invites you to surrender not in defeat but in surrender to truth. And this surrender clears away the fog of ego, pride and false hopes, revealing a landscape of possibility that was always there but hidden beneath your need to appear whole. And in this landscape, you see yourself as you truly are, flawed, fragile, yet profoundly alive and infinitely capable of transformation. So remember, brokenness is not the end, it is clarity in disguise. A clarity that arises when the old self dissolves and the new self is born. A clarity that tells you that beneath the broken pieces lies a deeper wholeness waiting to be discovered, not in spite of your brokenness, but because of it. And when you embrace this truth, your brokenness becomes the clearest path to freedom. You are not your experience because what you have lived through, what has happened to you and what you feel in any moment, though it shapes your life, does not define the essence of who you are beyond the surface. And this essence is not bound by time, circumstance or emotion. It is a deeper presence that witnesses everything without being touched or limited by it, like the sky that remains vast and open no matter what storms pass across it. Your experiences, whether joyful or painful, are like clouds moving across the sky of your consciousness, sometimes dark and heavy, sometimes light and fleeting, but the sky itself remains unchanged, always ready to hold whatever arises without judgment, without clinging. And when you realize this, you begin to understand that your true self is this open space, this awareness that is bigger than the stories you tell about yourself or the roles you play. Many people confuse their identity with their experiences, thinking that their failures, their successes, their losses and their joys make them who they are. But this identification creates suffering because experiences are transient and ever-changing. And when you hold tightly to them as your definition, you set yourself up for disappointment and pain whenever those experiences shift or fade away. You are more than the sum of your experiences because you are the one who experiences, the silent observer behind every thought, every emotion, every sensation. And this observer is not limited by the content it witnesses. It is timeless, unchanging and free. And the moment you start to recognize this witness within, you start to loosen the grip of your stories and judgments about yourself. When you understand that you are not your experience, you create a space of freedom inside, a space where you can feel pain without being consumed by it, where you can enjoy happiness without attachment, where you can face challenges without losing yourself. Because your identity is rooted in awareness, not in the passing events of your life. This does not mean you deny or avoid your experiences, but rather that you learn to relate to them differently, with detachment that is not coldness but clarity, seeing your thoughts and feelings as waves on the ocean of consciousness, rising and falling, but never becoming the ocean itself. And in this shift, you find peace and stability even amid life's turbulence. You are the sky. Your experiences are the weather, always changing, unpredictable, sometimes fierce, sometimes gentle, but always temporary. And by resting in the awareness of this, you discover a profound freedom, a freedom that no experience can take away, a freedom that is your true nature, waiting silently beneath all appearances. So remember, you are not your experience, you are the space in which all experiences happen. And when you realize this, your life transforms. because you are no longer bound by what happens to you or what you feel, but you stand as the unshakable witness. Just silent presence that watches the dance of life with calmness, clarity and endless compassion. Darkness is fertile ground because just as the seed must be buried deep beneath the soil, hidden from the light, so too must certain parts of us go through a period of darkness and stillness before they can grow into something new. And this darkness is not emptiness or despair, but a rich space where transformation quietly begins, unseen by the eye but alive with possibility and potential. In darkness, there is no distraction, no noise from the outside world, no bright illusions to keep you busy and comfortable. And in that silence and stillness, you are forced to face yourself honestly, to confront the depths of your being where true growth occurs. Because growth does not happen on the surface, but in the hidden places where light does not easily reach. Many fear darkness because it feels like loss, like an end. But it is actually a beginning, a sacred womb where the old dies, so the new can be born. And this process is necessary because without darkness, there can be no emergence, no flowering of the soul, no awakening to a deeper reality that lies beyond what is visible or known. In the fertile ground of darkness, the mind may resist and the heart may ache. But this resistance is part of the process, a sign that something inside is breaking open, breaking free from old patterns and limitations. And as the darkness deepens, so does your capacity to hold more of yourself with compassion and awareness. Darkness teaches you patience and surrender, because growth underground cannot be rushed. And it requires trust that even though you cannot see the progress, beneath the surface something miraculous is unfolding. And this trust transforms fear into faith, anxiety into peace, and isolation into a deep connection with the life force that animates all things. It is in darkness that your roots grow strong, anchoring you to the earth even as your branches reach for the sky. And this grounding is essential because it prepares you to stand tall and resilient when the light finally returns, ready to embrace the fullness of life with new wisdom and strength. So when you find yourself in the dark places of life, whether in pain, confusion or loss, remember that this is not a place to be feared or avoided, but a fertile ground to be embraced, because it holds the secret alchemy of transformation, turning your brokenness into wholeness, your silence into song, your stillness into movement. And when the darkness finally gives way to light, you will see that it was never darkness at all, but the womb of your becoming, the sacred soil where the seed of your true self was nurtured in silence and shadow, waiting patiently for the moment to break through, to bloom and to become all that you are meant to be. Choose to break open, not break down, because breaking is inevitable in life, whether it is a relationship, a dream or an old belief system that crumbles. But how you respond to that breaking determines everything. It can either shatter you into despair or it can unfold you into a new dimension of yourself. And this choice is all within your power, even when everything else seems out of control. Breaking down means surrendering to fear, to pain, to hopelessness, allowing yourself to collapse under the weight of suffering, to shrink into a smaller version of yourself. But breaking open means allowing the cracks to become openings, letting the light pour in, letting the light pour, embracing vulnerability as a doorway to greater courage and clarity. And this requires awareness and willingness to face the unknown with an open heart. When you break open, you stop resisting what is happening, you stop trying to fix everything instantly, and instead, you allow the process to unfold naturally, like a flower blossoming slowly in the warmth of spring. And though the journey may be painful and uncertain, it carries the possibility of new growth, new perspectives, new strengths you never knew you had. Breaking down is often accompanied by blame, by self-judgment, by stories of failure and victimhood. But breaking open invites you to let go of these stories, to step out of the mind's endless loops and to open yourself to the deeper truth that beneath the pain, beneath the chaos, there is a calm, steady presence waiting to guide you forward. In breaking open, you become more real, more authentic, because you no longer hide behind the masks of perfection or control. You allow yourself to be seen in your entirety, flaws, fears and all. And this honesty is the soil in which true healing and transformation take root, turning pain into power and wounds into wisdom. Choosing to break open means embracing change as a friend rather than an enemy, trusting that each ending carries the seed of a new beginning, and that the breaking itself is a sacred process that clears away what no longer serves you so that something truer, deeper and more alive can emerge in its place. So when life feels like it is tearing you apart, remember you have the choice to break down and become bitter, defeated and small, or to break open and become expansive, free and whole in a way you never imagined. Because true strength is not in resisting the breaking, but in surrendering to it without losing yourself. And as you break open, you will find that what you once feared as destruction is actually creation. That every shattered piece of your old self is simply a fragment of the chrysalis, falling away so that your wings can unfold and you can fly into a life of deeper meaning, greater love and boundless possibility.